And stand by, almost there. Okay, Chair, we are live on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. It is the 10 a.m. regular meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. I am Board Chair Claire Hall. Also here today is Commissioner Doug Hunt. Commissioner Katie Jacobson is excused from today's meeting. However, Commissioner Hunt and I do constitute a quorum. The first item on the agenda is a proclamation of Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I'm going to ask Commissioner Hunt to read the proclamation in just a moment. I want to verify that, is it Lizzie Martinez from Children's Advocacy Center who will be presenter after Commissioner Hunt reads the proclamation, is ready to go? I'm not seeing.
Commissioner Lizzie wasn't able to make it today,
okay, so
I will stand in her place.
All righty. Thank you, Paul. Commissioner Hunt, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Chair Hall. Proclaiming January 2022 to be Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Lincoln County. Whereas human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or slavery. And whereas human trafficking disproportionately impacts those most marginalized in our community, anyone can become a victim of trafficking. And whereas human trafficking is a public health and civil rights crisis occurring at epidemic levels all over the world, its victims and survivors are everywhere, including Lincoln County, Oregon. And whereas human trafficking goes against basic human rights, and therefore is a vital need to eradicate, and therefore there is a vital need to eradicate this crime. And whereas law enforcement, federal and state agencies, nonprofits, social service providers, private industry, and non-governmental organizations, including the Children's Advocacy Center, My Safe Place, and the Selette's Care Program, are working to combat human trafficking in our community. And whereas Human Trafficking Task Force of Lincoln County, along with their partners, continue to educate the public on violence and exploitation in ways that honor those impacted by this crime. And now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners proclaims January 2022 to be Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Lincoln County, Oregon, and encourage all citizens to work together with these invaluable community agencies to raise awareness and to help combat modern-day slavery and exploitation.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. And joining us is the Executive Director of the Lincoln County Children's Advocacy Center, Paul Schrader. And Paul, your comments or thoughts on the resolution and this crisis.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Hunt. This is greatly appreciated. As noted in the proclamation, human trafficking of all types is a really insidious thing, and it intersects with a lot of different, many different populations in our communities and in all communities everywhere, including poverty and domestic violence and child abuse situations. So it's the Children's Advocacy Center is honored to be able to spearhead the human trafficking awareness and be a part of the Human Trafficking Task Force. As part of the educational piece, we are providing an understanding and addressing sex trafficking in our community. And that is on January 20th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. And this is something that is presented by the CAC. And it'll be Lizzie Martinez and Jill Wagner. Thank you for putting the flyer up there. I believe that should also be available on our website. So you have the link to be able to register for that. I wanted to keep things brief so I don't clog up the meeting. Are there any questions for me?
Thanks, Paul. Can you give us any idea of, the extent of this problem in Lincoln County or trends? I mean, even one case is too many, but how, I think people in the community who are watching might be wondering, how extensive a problem is this? Is it getting worse? Is it staying the same? So what can you share with us about that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't have any hard facts, just anecdotal evidence, but I believe it to be pervasive in our community, particularly since we are a working community on the docks with the fishing community. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Also with the heavy tourism industry, there's a lot of opportunity there for both labor and sex trafficking on both of those fronts. And I believe it to be active in our community. And, given recent stings, that evidence is borne out.
Thank you, Paul. Commissioner Hunt, questions?
Yes. So, Paul, how might an individual, what are some of the signs, the visual things that you might observe if there was a trafficking situation, human trafficking situation? And, if you observe what you think to be that situation, what should you do or what might you do as an individual?
Those are great questions. I appreciate that. It's the first question on what you might observe. That's really challenging. Again, this is a really subtle kind of insidious thing. And, a lot of the markers are very similar to domestic violence situations. With respect to the labor trafficking piece, that's something that's a little bit more outside of my purview, so I don't have good recommendations for that. But if you see something that is hinky, depending on the severity of what you feel when you're seeing that, the best places to call would be law enforcement, your local law enforcement, and the CAC here. We have connections with the appropriate people to be able to look into and assist on that front.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Hunt?
No, sadly, this is a situation that is prevalent in our county. And as you indicated, Chair Hall, even if it's one person, that's one too many.
Totally agree. At this point, then, I would like to entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
And it will be I don't know if it's an honor, but certainly I will I will move to approve the resolution recognizing January 2022 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Lincoln County.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it is unanimously approved. Paul, thanks for presenting this to us, and you and your team and partners keep up the good work.
My pleasure. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Thanks so much. Next up, the consent calendar. These are items either that we've discussed at previous meetings or are routine in nature, such as execution of deeds and contracts. Are there any items on the consent calendar that staff or commissioners would like to either remove from the calendar or highlight? If not, I'd entertain a motion for adoption of the consent calendar as presented.
I will mention that we are approving the order or the amended order awarding the Lincoln County Community and Economic Development Grant Funds. That's something that we do annually, and I think it's certainly something that is of great value. So I will mention it. And with that, I'll move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And it is approved. We now move on to a public hearing. This is on vacating a portion of Northeast Avery Street between Northeast 113th and the first addition to Beverly Beach in Lincoln County. And the way a public hearing works is I will formally open the hearing. We will have a staff report. Then the proponents will have an opportunity to make their case to us directly. Then time is reserved for opposition. And then if there is opposition, the proponents have an opportunity for rebuttal. And then at that point, the public hearing would be closed and the commissioners would decide next steps. So at this point, I'll declare this public hearing open, and Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director, are you taking the lead on this presentation?
I am. Good morning,
The floor is
Chair
yours.
Hall and Commissioner Hunt. I am Roy Kenyon. I am the Public Works Director for Lincoln County. The county is in receipt of a petition to vacate a portion of Northeast Avery Street between Northeast 113th and the first addition to Beverly Beach. Obviously, this is in the Beverly Beach area in the community just south of Beverly Beach State Park. When such a petition is received, ORS 368.346 requires that I file with the county governing body a written report containing a description of the ownership and the uses of the property proposed to be vacated, an assessment as to whether or not the vacation would be in the public interest, and any other information required by the county governing body. This letter constitutes my written report. Petitioners, Roger Reese, give as their reason for requesting this vacation as the 30-foot road would be cost prohibitive to develop due to major elevation difference, including a deep ravine. All tax lots remain accessible via other established roads. Also, vacating the 30-foot road easement would then increase the size of each existing tax lot, which equates to additional tax revenue. In fact, the property owners of tax lot 3309 desire to construct an approximate 660 square foot garage shop, which is only possible with the acquisition of this 15-foot additional land that this petition to vacate would provide. The petitioner, Roger Reese, has submitted a presentation supporting the request for vacation, and it has been included with this petition. I have visited the site. Most of the public right-of-way that is described in this petition is located on gently sloping ground covered with sparse coastal vegetation. Casey, could you scroll down to that picture number 1, please? This is, back up just a hair. One more. There we go. This is looking at the area that is described in the petition, looking north from the south end of the vacation. Anyway, the north end of the right-of-way consists of a steeply sided ravine covered in thick vegetation. And you can see, if you're looking to the other end of this photo there, you can see some large spruce trees there. That is actually where this ravine exists. And Casey, scroll down to the next photo, please. This is actually on the other end of the vacation. This is actually a portion of Avery Street that is currently being used by the neighborhood. And as you can see, it basically physically comes to an end at this point. The right-of-way is not currently being used for road purposes, but it has been used at times to deliver construction materials to some of the adjacent tax lots. This right-of-way appears as if it has never been used as a through road due to the natural barrier on the north end. The main access for tax lot 3306 and 3308 is from Northeast Benton Street, which is the street to the east of this. The access for tax lot 3309 is from Northeast 113th Street, and the access for tax lot 3307 could be from either Northeast 113th Street or Northeast Avery Street, depending on preference. Casey, could you scroll down to the next 2 photos, please? This here, parcel 1 is owned by Stephen Rubert. Parcel 2 and the tax lot to the left of the right-of-way is owned by Timothy Burks, and parcel 3 is owned by the petitioner, Roger Reese. Scroll up to the next picture, please. This is the aerial view of the area. To the bottom of the screen is actual Highway 101. To the upper end of the picture is what is County Road 444 Beverly Drive, which at one time was the old state highway before the new state highway was built. And you can, as you can see, Northeast Benton, and it's not actually that visible on this, but it would be actually the street that furnishes access to these 3 lots on the east side of the lots. And Northeast Avery, the portion that is being discussed today is that hashed out area in white. That would be the vacated area. 113th Street runs east and west and provides access to 2 lots that actually have homes on them. The one to the north is Roger Reese's house, and then it also provides access to a lot that is on the south side of that. There's a kind of a L-shaped tax lot to the west of the vacation area, and that is owned by Timothy Burks. And then when I said that access to that lot could be from either 113th or Avery Street, there's a section at the bottom of this that 113th actually abuts that tax lot. So there is enough room there for an access from 113th onto that tax lot. Or as this right of way now exists, a person would have the ability to access that lot along the northeast or the north-south line on the east side of the tax lot. So I find the ownership to be as described in the petition. The petition contains the signatures of 3 of the 4 property owners that abut the proposed vacation. They are Roger and Cheryl Reese, who own tax lot 3309, and Timothy and Tracy Burks, who own tax lots 3307 and 3308. So 3307 and 3308 is what would be parcel 2 and the large tax lot to the left of the screen there. Their properties make up 83% of the abutting property and 75% of the ownership. Therefore, the petition has met the requirements of ORS 368.341 and is a valid petition. I have received a letter of opposition from the owners of the 4th tax lot 3306, which on this screen here would be parcel 1. The 3306 is owned by Stephen and Tracy Rupert, which is located on the northeast end of the proposed vacation. Mr. Rupert states that vacating this public right-of-way would remove access to the west side of his property and keep him from finishing his plans of additional improvements to his property. He also states that approval of petition may lead to the consolidation of lots 3307 and 3308, which are the ones owned by the Burks, and the building of a home west of his property. His letter of opposition has been included in the materials provided for the public hearing. ORS 368.346 subsection 2 requires that I provide an opinion whether or not the proposed vacation is in the public interest. Because of natural barriers at the north end of the proposed vacation, Mr. Rupert has an interest in retaining access from the south end of the right-of-way to the west side of his property for future development. The vacation of a right-of-way is not in the public interest when one or more of the adjacent property owners are adversely affected by the vacation of that right-of-way. Now, this is my opinion, and I've researched kind of the whole what is in the public interest idea. Anyway, this is my opinion on this. And at this point, I am recommending that the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners deny the request to vacate the Avery Street right-of-way between 113th Street and the first addition to Beverly Beach. And also at this point in time, I would like to enter into public record my report, a presentation submitted by Roger Reese that will be coming up later in this public hearing, Also, an email and photos submitted by Tim Burks. The presentation submitted by Steve Rupert. And also, I'd like to introduce into the record an email sent yesterday to the Board of Commissioners from Roger Reese. And so that is the end of my portion of this presentation. I believe that I don't know if Council Herbage has anything to add at this time.
Chair Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. For the record, I'm Jerry Herbage. I'm an assistant county counsel, and I've been working with Mr. Roy Kenyon on this application and this particular hearing. What I would like to say at the outset is that this, unlike some of the road vacation proceedings, is contested, and you have two of you, which is fine in the sense that you have a quorum, but I do believe that it would be best that you take testimony today and that you continue the matter to a time and date certain. We were talking about February 2nd. You might want to check your calendars to see if that might likely work. But I believe that, first of all, when you have a contested proceeding, that all three of you should be present, you know, for obvious reasons. A motion will carry 2-1. A motion won't carry 1-1 if that might happen. Furthermore, I think that as the road, as Roy Kenyon had indicated, the Public Services Director, I think that having the hearing continued would allow the parties to see if they can work out some of these issues that seem to be that seem to be present, at least currently. So, if that's acceptable to the board, I would ask that you consider at the end of the proceeding a motion. It would be a motion seconded and approved to continue to a date certain. The reason, of course, is that there are three different types of notices that are used to initiate this proceeding. And by putting this on the record, we won't have to renotice again.
You're on mute, I believe. Chair
Thank
Hall.
you. Yeah, thanks for catching that, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Herbage. Commissioner Hunt, any questions for Mr. Kenyon or Mr. Herbage at this point?
No, I was very interested in the comments that Assistant County Counsel Herbage offered, and certainly agree with the idea that this has some controversy, and I think it would be in the best interest of all to revisit this issue when all three commissioners are present.
That's my inclination at this point. However, since we do have the hearing open, we might as well give everybody an opportunity to present and get their oral statements as well as their written statements, which we already have, onto the record. So
yeah,
I
did not mean to infer
I
that I was not interested in hearing from other parties.
Oh, no, I just wanted, in case folks listening in were wondering about proceed or watching, we're interested
very
in
good.
the process. So at this point, the staff report's concluded, and we will open the floor to the proponent, Mr. Reese.
Hi, so I'm Roger Reese, this is my wife Cheryl, and we are going to go through the presentation that I put together. So we talked about the fact, and it was in Roy's statement, if you go to the next slide, the reason for the request is to allow me to build a garage, because when we first bought this lot and built our home, we did not anticipate, we thought it would be a vacation home. And so we designed a house for that purpose, not for becoming a primary residence, which it has become. And for that reason, I don't have the garage space that we originally designed, that we would desire, being a principal residence. So the reason why I have a problem building a house is that my parcel is, when they subdivided the 3 parcels that were shown in that map, my property, the one that we purchased, the last one that was left by the previous owner to be sold, became a community septic drain field, basically. It was the highest lot and the driest lot. And evidently the other lots didn't pass septic perk test. So to make it easier to sell, they decided to just put easements on my property in order to, or the parcel that we've ended up buying, in order to allow the other lots to be sold without having to go through an expensive engineered septic system. So these drain field easements on my land greatly restrict, and if we go to the next page, you'll see this, greatly restrict the available space that I have to build a property. So you see the Rubert's lot, which originally had a cut through and just more or less a trapezoidal shape. But since then, he has added to his land by purchasing lots 5 and 6 from Block 2 of Beverly Beach First Edition, and he's improved that. The Burks' property, again, evidently wasn't adequate for a drain field, because you can see how the Mr. Loomis, the land surveyor, ended up carving out the sections of lot 3309 in order to support the drain fields of the other 2 lots. I also share a little bit of my septic system on the Burks property. So that's significantly limited the available space that I had to build on. And at the time when we bought the lot, we thought it was a vacation home, not a primary residence.
We might also say that we had to redesign our house twice, because we didn't realize what a small footprint we had to actually build a house on. And part of our house is cantilevered because of the footprint that we actually had for building. Sorry, dear.
Yep, no, that's fine. If we go to the next slide. So, of course, this is the benefits to Lincoln County, is it does take off the books a non-viable road, because you're not going to build a bridge. And the additional garage space on my property would add to Lincoln County's property tax revenue. And of course, the revenue you gain from the small amount of square footage that this adds to the other lots does not represent a lot of money, but it's going to be, it's something that goes on forever. And I just want to point out that the development of the Burks 3307 parcel, that 0.94 acres, that's west of Avery Street, is not dependent upon vacating Avery. All it requires, and there's never been a perk test done on that land, all it requires is for an engineered septic system to be designed. And Tim could, and he says he's never going to, and I believed him, construct it. It's not the greatest parcel to build on because of potential slide risk, but blocking the vacate does not change anything about development on lot 3307. Let's go to the next slide. So Steve and Stacy have owned that lot for over 6 years, and he says he wants to build a retaining wall on the west side. And actually, it would have been the easiest to build a retaining wall before he actually started construction. But since then, and he tried to add on to his backyard using Joe Howery as a excavator and bring in dirt. But Joe refused to go down Avery Street to add dirt without going across Tim's backyard and taking out Tim's shrubs. And Tim denied that request to destroy his landscaping with big heavy trucks to bring in dirt. Well, Steve is a very resourceful and talented person. And so he ended up putting in a rather extensive drain system along the north side of his house and the retaining wall, and brought in dirt. And he was able to transport dirt to his backyard. So he's added to his backyard and he has landscaping going on right now in the backyard. So it would have been easier to do a retaining wall before all the dirt's been added. He still has the opportunity to do a retaining wall. Tim and I are willing, and Tim can speak for this as well, to grant an easement for some time limited period so that Steve could build a retaining wall using what currently is Avery Street. We're willing to work with him if that's really what he wants to do. So I just want to reemphasize that vacating the street has nothing to do with developing 3307, that 0.94 acres. It can be developed whether it's vacated or not. So I think that let's go to the
15 feet.
and the other thing I want to point out is, yes, the ravine is very steep on the north end of this vacated section, but it's still possible when you have a 15-foot entrance. If it was vacated, Steve would have a 15-foot entrance off of Avery Street to build in boulders and build that up so he could access his property on a 15-foot wide street. My property is accessed through 113th Street, which is only 14 feet wide. So 15 feet is plenty wide enough to do any type of construction you need to do. It's not cheap, but it is possible to do. Again, Steve is bright, he's an engineer, he's very resourceful, and it could be done through the north end of Avery Street. Okay, next slide. These are some photos of the ravine, and I also show here all the added fill that Steve has brought in, and in fact, he's got a backhoe back there that he accessed via the right-hand side of his house, and you can see that on the picture on the lower bottom. And it also identifies lots 5 and 6 that he purchased and improved to put in a large garage shop or whatever it is that he plans to do there. He's got it staked out for something. So just wanted to give you guys a nice view of what he's done so far. And you can see in the lower left-hand corner the added fill that he's brought in. And if he wants to build a retaining wall without Avery Street being vacated, he'll have to undermine that fill to some degree in order to build a base for any boulder type retaining wall he builds in. He could do a poured in place concrete as well. That have to be fully engineered to handle the moisture issues and the drainage issues that come with that lot. But it's all a matter of engineering. I'm an engineer myself, by the way. And in fact, I had a professional engineering license for the state of Oregon a number of years ago. So I think the next slide is more or less a summary slide. That he does gain that 15-foot wide access. It allows me to build the garage that I'd like to build to house a 4-door, 8-foot bed pickup truck. Does not alter development potential of Berks' properties and does not hinder Berks in any way of accessing their properties. And it results in a positive financial impact to the county. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. And I would entertain any questions if you have any.
I don't have any questions at this point. How about you, Commissioner Hunt?
No, a lot of information that I'm still analyzing, and I appreciate the information.
I do as well. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Hearing none, we will move on.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Tim Burks.
Yes.
I'd like to, my wife and I would like to, we presented some information. I don't know if you want to bring that up. There you go. Thank you for allowing me to speak, commissioners. In January of 2019, we began the process of vacating the Avery Street easement, but this process was halted when Steve and Stacy Rupert expressed a desire to use the easement to landscape their backyard. That was 3 years ago. On October 16th, 2020, Roger and Cheryl Reese again began the process. So just wanted you to know that this has been going on for 3 years. And we've been waiting for him to landscape his backyard, and he now has access to the north side, and he's yarded truckloads of dirt to the back, and you can probably see it in some of the photos that I have. And anyway, Roger and Cheryl Reese again began the process to vacate the easement to be able to gain the extra 15 feet of land so they could construct a detached garage. We concur with Reese's that this is a reasonable request, given the Reese's are challenged with usable land since 100% of Steve and Stacy's septic drain field and a large portion of ours is on Reese's property. We feel it is in fairness to Reese's that the easement vacation should be granted so they would gain an extra 15 feet of land to allow the construction of the garage. I did read over Rupert's contention, and there was, I think, 3 of them. One was the additional tax revenue if he gets the 15 feet and it gets vacated. And we had shared with Steve Rupert several times, that if that was a problem and he didn't want to pay the taxes on it after it gets vacated, if it does, we would be willing to do a lot line adjustment and assume the tax burden at that point. And another contention that he had was he thought that we would join the tax lot 3307 and 3308 that we own, and that would never be the option. He stated to us at one time in our front yard that he was concerned that we would combine the two and tear down our house and build a house on the 3307. And that was insulting to say that we would even consider something like that. The third point that Rupert had in his memo to you guys was that he needed access to his backyard to do his landscaping. He has since, about a year or so ago, built a retaining wall with big rectangular blocks on the north side. So he has access for heavy equipment, backhoe, a skid steer, and he transferred, there's a good picture of it, transferred a bunch of dirt, and I never counted every truckload, but there was probably about 18 to 22 or 24 truckloads of dirt that was yarded back and forth. Like Roger Reese said, it would have been more reasonable to build your retaining wall at the time when Howery construction was placing the blocks and bringing the dirt up in a staged construction. It could still be done from the upper end of his backyard. So anyway, he does still have access to dump rock and bring the rocks back there. And right now he has the south end of his property. He had some excavation or some landscaping folks build a retaining wall with hand placed rocks. And I'm not sure if that's what he's planning on doing on the west side. And then the other, here you can see how steep it is. And what I would request respectfully from the county commissioners that you ask Roy Kenyon to go out and take a little more extensive investigation of the steep ravine and the access that Steve has. I know in his report, it didn't say that he had access and he yarded a couple dozen loads of dirt in the backyard, which could still be used for placing rock. Also, from my perspective, I think it would be more appropriate to Rupert access, if he needed access on Avery, to get it from the north side of Avery. It's a ravine, but with the backhoe, you could go up the hillside and place your rocks up overhead. And actually, it would probably be to his advantage to vacate the 30-foot road easement so he could carve in a bench on the 15 feet and build his rocks from that point up. Because right now his dirt, the catch point is right at the edge of Avery Street. So anyway, what else was I going to say? Is it okay if I let my wife speak also?
Yes,
Hello?
it is. Please go
Hi.
ahead.
Hi, my name is Tracy Burks. I just wanted to reiterate that that this process, that we attempted to start this process in 2019, but did halt it when the Ruperts expressed wanting to get their landscaping finished. So I just want to get the point across that that was 3 years ago. So this now fast forward 3 years and we're still trying to get this process closed up. We really feel, in fairness to the Reeses, that they should be able to get this vacated so they can gain that 15 feet to build their garage, since their property is very limited because they are supporting all of our drain fields. Again, 100% of the Rupert's drain fields and a large portion of our drain fields. So in fairness, and the fact that we have been going through this, are trying to get this vacated for the past 3 years, and we tried to work with the Rupert's on putting some sort of a limitation on an access with a kind of a date contingent to get the landscaping done. And again, that was 3 years ago, and nothing to this point has been done. But so that the Reeses are no longer held up in the process of being able to construct their garage, we would really respect and appreciate if you could have Mr. Kenyon come back out and take a closer look to see that the Rupert's do have an access from the north side of their property that they created. In fact, that access, they were able to build the large retaining wall with commercial grade concrete blocks that's shown in the picture. And then again, the photos that were sent in by the Reeses show that they did have heavy equipment in their backyard, again, using that same access from the north side of their property. So I appreciate your time and thank you for listening and for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Burks. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If not, we will move on to the opponent and Mr. Is it Ruberts? I'm sorry. Is that how do you pronounce your name? I want to make sure we've got that correct.
It's Steve Rubert.
Rubert. Okay. The floor is yours.
Great. Can you guys see me at all, or do you have video?
No, it's showing that I don't know. We're just seeing your name but not seeing your camera turned on. Do you have your camera turned on?
I believe so, but I am not an expert at this.
Steve.
Yeah.
You should have a little arrow next to your video icon. But nothing I'm doing on my end here should be causing you not to have video. So there you go.
Hey, there we go. Technology, isn't it great?
Yes, it is.
All right. Hey, I appreciate you guys taking a minute and listening to kind of our side of this story. As always, there's always two sides to look at. You do have my presentation in front of me. I think everybody's pretty well up to speed with, what we're trying to accomplish here is retain some access, get back there, shore up our backyard. I wanted to address a couple of points. Originally, we did not live here when we built the house. We were living in the valley. And so, this whole process was a little bit hands off to get things built, and the backyard wasn't necessarily a main focus. It was like, build our house and then we'll do our landscaping. And the way the topography worked out and the builder selecting the site for our house, it ended up with a very, very steep backyard. Not much of a yard at all, as a matter of fact, 5 or 10 feet. And then dropped off pretty steeply to the canyon. So we did start working on that after the fact. We originally talked to Joe Howery, which is one of the main guys that works for the county and does septic evaluations and whatnot. And he thought we may be able to get away with putting just some dirt back there, and that we wouldn't need any retaining wall type of materials. I was skeptical. So was Tim Burks and everybody else along there. But, we figured, great, we'll give it a try. So we did, we didn't want to tear up the backyards of Roger Reese and Tim Burks. And actually it's not, there's no yard there at all. I think you can see from the pictures in my report and the other pictures, it's just grass. It's just flat grass area. If you go down a little bit more, there we go. So you can see that picture on the right, the access needed here. It's a flat grass area. There would be no damage to, particular plants or anything like that. And certainly if we did use that access, we would spend the money to return it to the state in which we had found it. We don't want to leave big empty tracks there or anything else. I will also point out that due to the damage that would cause, the retaining wall materials can only be delivered during a small window in the summertime when that ground is hard, dry enough that the large dump trucks full of rocks and whatnot would not just sink up to their axles and get stuck. So it's been part of our issue since let me back up. So we tried the dirt route. We didn't want to tear up their backyards. We did make a retaining wall. If you can, I think, go down a little bit more in our presentation there. Oh, there, actually, that's it right there. So you can see on the right-hand side, we built a small retaining wall there to gain enough space that we could get a small tractor back there to deliver dirt. And I took a picture of the tractor that fits back there. And I don't know if you can see that on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's as big a tractor as can get back there. So they were simply using that to deliver some dirt, and we are having some landscaping done. So we're talking, rocks, hand rocks this big for decorative flower beds and those kinds of things, not anywhere near the material we would need for big riprap retaining wall boulders. So as you can see from my picture, pretty clear, you're not going to get an excavator around there. You're not going to get a dump truck around there. There's no way, there's not enough space. It would not work. So we do need the access from the south. We thought maybe we would try the dirt and see if we could get by without a retaining wall, as our first contractor suggested. It keeps caving in. We're trying to bring in more dirt. It keeps caving in. And so it's become obvious at this point, and also the professional opinion of our landscaper, that we absolutely will need to do retaining wall. And it just, the contractors are so backed up that it's just been crazy to get people out there to do work. I went through, this is the third landscaper that we tried to hire, and he promised to start in July. He actually started in November and just finished up what he could do by Christmas. And then we have to pull back and wait for the weather in the spring. So it's been really tough between the COVID effects and material requests that everybody's going crazy for building, and we can only get these materials delivered during a small 1 or 2 month window in the summer, when guess what, everybody else is building like gangbusters, because that's also the dry season for putting in septic systems and all the rest of that. So anyhow, that's a little bit of the reasoning why we're sitting where we are today. And let's see here. So just to touch on a couple other things, for the record, we've got absolutely no problem with Roger's shop. That's not our intent. We don't have an issue. I think that would be great if Roger could build a shop. I feel bad that this is maybe keeping him from doing that. But, on the other hand, the property he purchased, all this was clearly laid out and presented in the purchase details, the easements. We all got the same packet. So he knew the lay of the land when he purchased the property. I'm also, when we talk about development of that lot across the easement space that's owned by Tim Burks, he certainly has expressed to me that he does intend to join those two properties together. And be that as it may, I personally, I do not think that Tim Burks Tim and Tracy have any intent of building anything on that lot. I think they want to leave it for the view and all of us for our view, which is great. But my concern is, we never know our future. So, there could be an illness, there could be cancer, there could be an accident, there could be a breakup where that property ends up on the market for sale. In which case, a new owner could certainly purchase that property. And especially, we're seeing a lot of people moving out of the popularized areas from California and other places. And, that lot would have just a spectacular view, just unbelievable view. And so it's certainly not that far-fetched to think that someone could come in from out of town if there were something to happen to the Burks, purchase that property and build their McMansion, if you will, between us and the ocean. So that is a concern. Roger said that lot is absolutely buildable without that. I courteously disagree with that. My statement's based on the words of Joe Howery, once again, who actually does the septic site evaluations for the county. And he told me point blank that there is no chance that that property would perk for purchase or for a building permit. And as a matter of fact, we were initially going to purchase that property, and with Joe's advisement that no one could ever build there anyway, we decided not to purchase the property. We actually were the ones that gave the information to the Burks because they were interested in purchasing it just to keep it looking nice, which is fine. So let's see what else. We talked about the tax dollars. Obviously we'd end up with a higher tax bill. That land wouldn't be usable for us because it would be in the canyon. It is what it is. It's certainly not a benefit to us. As Roger said before, it may not be a lot, but it goes on forever. And then Roger also suggested that maybe we could come through the north side. You remember that picture with the bamboo and the cliffs there and whatnot. That is a virtual cliff. It is unscalable, unusable. There's a creek that runs through the bottom of that. And we certainly would have used that avenue prior to this if that was available. Just to give you an idea, just this retaining wall that allowed us to get that small tractor around our house, total cost of that retaining wall was $18,000. So if we had ready access, yes, thank you. So if we had ready access from the other side of Avery there, we certainly would have used that instead of spending that kind of money just to be able to get a small tractor back there. Okay. And we did that honestly to, try and keep peace amongst the neighbors. We didn't want to tear up their backyard if we didn't have to tear up that easement space. Everybody was really upset, that we may use that. So, we tried to be good neighbors. We tried to put in the money and get this done without doing that. It just, unfortunately, as you can see from that hillside, it's really steep back there and the ground just keeps falling away. And our landscaping guy is saying, you want to put in a fire pit, you want to put in a wall, you want to put in all this, it'll just be laying in the canyon. And you're going to fight this forever until you do something proper to fix it. So let's see, what else did I have here? I think that covers the main points. I put a few graphics on there. If you'd like to step through these, just take a look. Obviously, these are the pictures that we've been looking at as far as the access. I think we've probably given you a clear idea that really there is only one access from the south side there. And we would certainly appreciate your consideration for leaving us that access. Both the Burks and the Reeses use that same access to deliver their retaining wall materials. And I might point out, the Burks made a point that, gee, we should have built that before we built our house. Well, interestingly enough, their rock wall was built after they completed their house. So, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, I think if both of them got the chance to use that access to do some retaining wall, then we should retain that access as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rubert. Commissioner Hunt, any questions at this point?
No, a lot of information, and I look forward to getting all of the graphics that have been presented and getting an appreciation of the orientation of all the pictures. And good information, still lots to, at least for me, it'll take some time to piece it all together.
I would say the same. Is there anybody else who wants to be heard in the opposition portion of the hearing? Is there anyone else in opposition to this request? If not, Mr. Burks will have an opportunity for rebuttal at this point.
Mr. Reese was the,
I'm sorry, Mr. Reese. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Reese. You are the primary petitioner, so you are the one who has the opportunity for rebuttal at this point, if you like.
So I guess, it comes back to, we are, between Tim and I, we're more than willing to give Steve access easement across that property for a time limited period. And I think that would certainly give him adequate time to bring in equipment and whatever he needs that he wants to build a retaining wall. So I think that's something that we could probably agree upon. If he really wants to go forward, say in the next year and a half, next 18 months to actually build a retaining wall, we'll give him that opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reese. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this.
Yeah.
can I,
Excuse me?
Could this is Cheryl Reese.
Cool.
Could I have the opportunity to say that if you looked at the picture of that small yellow excavator that brought in dirt, that is exactly the machine that dropped our rocks in to build our retaining wall. The large retaining wall that we have on our property, the rocks were dumped
On 113th.
On 113th Street. And that was the machine that picked up the rocks, brought them around, and dropped them in place. So that is the exact piece of machinery. The yellow machinery that you're looking at is the exact piece of machinery that placed our rocks and built our retaining wall. And the other thing that I'd like to make comment about, Mr. Rubert said the taxes go on forever, but Mr. Rubert has extensive financial abilities and resources. That is absolutely not a problem for him, as demonstrated in his spending over the last few years. And so he may say that the taxes are an issue, but that is truly not an issue. So just to be clear, I really feel that Mr. Rubert and Stacy Rubert do have access. They are resourceful people. They do have some fairly deep pockets, and they can build this retaining wall. We talked with Corey at Round FX. He's the one that was responsible for building our retaining wall. And he said it's a doable deed. And so and he said it was doable through access from either the north part of Avery or from the north side of Mr. Rubert's house. And he'd be happy to talk to you about that. Thanks. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Now, given that the proponents have completed their rebuttal, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed at this
before
point.
you do that, just a second.
Okay, Mr. Rubert?
Yeah, I would recommend, since the the matter isn't really completely resolved, that you not close the record, that you leave the
Okay.
record open, and that you make a motion to continue the matter to a time and date certain. If
Okay.
indeed there's some possibility that the parties could work out some issues, you wouldn't want the record closed.
Right.
And so let's not close the record.
Okay, good point.
Would it be possible for me to add something now, or you want to wait till next time?
We have completed on the public hearing process. It goes proponent, opponent,
okay.
rebuttal. There's not an opportunity for
Yeah.
Another rebuttal. I bet you can
All right.
submit written material while the record remains open.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Commissioner Hunt, I think you earlier indicated that, as I'm thinking, that we definitely do want to not make a decision on this petition today, but put it out, again, to give opportunity for proponents and opponents to submit additional material for the record. There's, I guess, still the possibility of a negotiated agreement that everybody could live with. And the original date suggested was February 2nd. I'm just wondering if that is sufficient time for all of this to take place. We heard about the need to bring in construction materials if there is going to be construction of a retaining wall, but that's not going to happen until spring, was my understanding. So I don't know if you have a suggestion or staff would have a suggestion on what's a reasonable date to move this to, without postponing it too far. I mean, I also want to acknowledge the fact that this is something that got started in 2019. So, Commissioner,
My thoughts are, I believe it was Assistant County Counsel Herbage suggested February 2nd.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, that's kind of close out, just a couple of weeks.
Well, I guess I would take direction from Director Kenyon or Council Herbage. Is that sufficient time, or do we need to look more into the future?
Well, this is Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director, and I think that what we could do is set the next, the continuation of the hearing to February 2nd, just for updates.
Okay.
To see if there is then at that time a need to continue it further.
Okay, we would have that option. That's true.
There may be some changes, or there may be not. Maybe will be a decision that things stand as is, and it will require a decision at that point in time. So I would like to see us reconvene on the 2nd.
All right, Commissioner Hunt, would you like to make a motion to continue this matter to February 2nd, 10 a.m.?
I will do so. I move that we continue the public hearing regarding vacating a portion of Northeast Avery Street between Northeast 113th and the first addition to Beverly Beach in Lincoln County until Wednesday, February 2nd at 10 a.m.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, it is so ordered. Now we move on to reports, and Public Health Director Florence Portal is with us today for our
point of order. I think we have a decision action item, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped right over it. Thank you. Too many notes on my agenda.
I hear you.
So at least, Florence, you're coming up soon. But first, we have a resolution as a decision action item declaring certain property to be surplus and authorizing its sale, disposal, or transfer. And that's Sergeant Carl Bertner of the Sheriff's Office and Assistant County Counsel Brian Gardner. The floor is yours, gentlemen.
Just briefly first, this is Brian Gardner, Assistant County Counsel for Lincoln County, and it's I believe it's Lieutenant Bertner now. If that was Sergeant on the agenda, apologies, Lieutenant Bertner.
Yes, I believe he was promoted with the departure of Lieutenant Cameron.
Yes. So normally this could have been on the consent calendar, but I wanted to put it on here because it was this surplus, what we're asking to be declared surplus property is a little different than the normal surplus property. And the two items are very closely linked. One being the canine unit NICS. So that dog no longer has a handler with Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, and the vehicle that the canine specially equipped vehicle. And basically the plan is to Lieutenant Bertner's worked out some details with Lincoln City. And the positive about that is we keep canine NICS and the vehicle in the community. They are more able to get a handler quicker than we are, so that canine NICS can get back out into the field, and we can provide the vehicle that would take a long time probably for Lincoln City to get the correct vehicle with the supply chain issues, as well as equipped appropriately. So what we're asking for is that the canine NICS and the vehicle be declared surplus, that canine NICS be allowed to be transferred to Lincoln City, and the plan is to sell the 2020 Dodge Durango specially equipped vehicle to Lincoln City, which we've gone through not only with this being worked out with the sheriff, who's approved, but also fleet manager Malnick, who has gone through what the proposal is, and that it retains enough money into the fleet replacement fund to replace the vehicle. But I know Lieutenant Vertner's available too if there's any specific questions, but what I'd be asking is that you adopt this resolution so that we can get NICS back on the road.
All right, Lieutenant Vertner, again, sorry, I was just going by the agenda. I was aware of your promotion as well. So do you have anything to add to what Councilor Gardner just shared with us?
No, it's just a rather unfortunate situation with staffing that brings this to light. And we would like to keep NICS in service in our community, and found an opportunity with Lincoln City Police Department.
Okay, Commissioner Hunt, any questions for staff?
Yeah, I guess I would like a clarification. And certainly I think this is great to see the county working collaboratively with the city of Lincoln City. But I guess I have a question. My understanding is that one of the major issues is that the county no longer has a handler for NICS, but Lincoln City does have a handler, even though they don't currently have a as part of their staff. Or maybe my question is, why are they more quickly able to get a handler for NICS than the county?
Yes, Commissioner, this is Lieutenant Carl Vertner at the Sheriff's Office. I'll approach that. So it comes down to actually training someone who's qualified to go to the training or the school. It takes about 6 weeks of dedicated service time to leave our agency and go train with the dog. We are down in to staffing that we haven't seen probably in the last, 15 years. I've never seen our staffing this low. And it will take away valuable resources to get somebody trained up. Lincoln City has better staffing currently to dedicate someone to the 6 weeks of training to train with the dog and the handler.
Okay, that answers the question. Thank you.
All right, is there any further comment or discussion? If not, I'd be willing to entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
All right, I'll move to approve the resolution declaring certain property to be surplus and authorizing sale, disposal, or transfer.
And I'll second the motion. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved. We don't have anything for discussion or information today, so now we move on to reports. And now we get to welcome back Florence Portal, our Public Health Director, with our weekly COVID-19 update. Florence, hello.
Hello. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you. Okay, so COVID's still with us in 2022, running strong.
Yeah.
Okay, so here are the highlights for this week. So it is predicted by the latest modeling from the Oregon Health and Science University that we will peak in hospitalizations by the end of January of 2022. Just for reference, this is about 450 hospitalization over the peak we had earlier with the Delta surge. Okay, so we thought we were already overwhelmed, but this is predicted to be worse. The silver lining, though, is as you may have seen, the curve of the curve of the Omicron cases is extremely steep, almost vertical. And it's been shown in other contexts to, once it reached the peak, to drop down fairly dramatically as well. So there is some hope and there. So that's that. So that's why, you know, I know people are tired, and there's so much information out there, and the information is changing a lot. And sometimes the general media just gives us pieces of information, right? And so this is really hard. Already it's hard for if your work is to be a public health worker, right? Sometimes it can be confusing, but if you're not, I understand how people can not understand where we're going. What I want to remind everybody is that we're not asking people to get vaccinated or to get boosted or to wear their mask or to be socially distanced, to be annoying or to push them to do things that they don't want to do. The bigger picture is always access to critical care, access to hospital. And I want people to think about when the hospitals are filled with COVID patients, that means that there are no more beds available for anyone else, okay? Meaning like you get into a car crash, you have a heart attack, you know, you needed your knee surgery, those are definitely going to be pushed out because they're considered kind of non-essential, okay? But it is very possible that when you need care and acute care, you won't have access to it because the hospitals can't take you, okay? So this is, I think, what is really important to realize. This is why we're trying to tell people, get boosted and wear your mask. And if you have symptoms that look like a cold, they might be COVID. So either go get tested or stay home and wait it out. You know, isolate as much as possible from people. So the other piece that I want to put out there is because Omicron variant is so transmissible, the number of cases in Oregon, and as you've probably seen in the United States and across the world, is absolutely overwhelming, okay? And so that means that it has already overwhelmed the system. I mean, with Delta, we had daily counts of about like 3,000 cases per day. With Omicron, it's 3 times that. So we don't have the capacity as a system to reach out to all those cases and let them know what to do and do all those case investigations and then collect the contacts and all that. We can't do this anymore. So Oregon Health Authority has decided that because of this reality, they're not requiring requiring the public health departments anymore to contact everybody who is a case. Okay. And so it's up to us now as the local public health department to decide what we want to do. And what is likely to happen for us in Lincoln County is that we will shift the way we're approaching tracing and investigation. We have yet to fully make our decision and update our processes, but I just want people to know that there's gonna be a change in how we process cases. I also thought it would be important to mention that the people we have in the hospital at this time in Lincoln County are either not vaccinated or under vaccinated. And so what this means is, it is, again, even though we're having breakthrough cases, which means a vaccinated person or even a boosted person can get infected with COVID, okay? The vast majority of people who are getting infected with COVID are unvaccinated, meaning no vaccines at all, or under-vaccinated, meaning they have only 1 dose, they have only 2 doses. Okay, so we need people to understand that if they want to be best protected against this variant that is extremely good at adapting and evading the protection of 2 doses, we want to make sure that people understand that they gotta go get their booster. And we have plenty of clinics available where people can just walk in and get boosted right away. So another piece is that now it is okay for everyone age 12 and older to get a booster 5 months after their second dose. Okay, of Moderna or Pfizer.
If I may, Florence, the 5 month is actually a 1 month reduction from what has been the recommendation.
Correct. Yes. So now you can, if it's been 5 months that you've received your second dose of either Pfizer or Moderna, you can go get boosted. Just want to make sure that for people understand that for the 12 to 17-year-old, it's only Pfizer that they will be able to get boosted with. Okay. I know it's a lot of information. And the last piece that I want to give you is this. You know how quarantine was not concerning people who were considered fully vaccinated? Well, the definition for fully vaccinated individuals has changed. So now, if you only have your 2 doses of Pfizer or Moderna or your 1 dose of J&J, you're not considered fully vaccinated anymore. To be considered fully vaccinated, you need to be boosted.
Florence?
Yes.
Thank you for that information. This might be a good time to ask a question I've been hearing in the community. I know there's been some talk in the news media about the possibility whether a second booster will be recommended for maybe some of the high-risk groups or certain populations. And I know that's not anything we decide at the local level, but Can you tell us where we're at on that discussion now, if anywhere, and what the steps would be in the chain of decision making?
Yes, of course. So we haven't, I checked in with some of my colleagues this morning. We haven't heard anything really of the sort in the pipe, through the pipe right now. However, if one day this comes to the table, you remember this little graph we had about all the steps necessary. So it first goes to the FDA for approval, and then it goes to the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices from the CDC, and then it goes to the CDC director. And then once there is a recommendation made, it goes to the Western State Advisory Committee. And then it goes to the Oregon Governor's Office. And then it goes to Oregon Health Authorities, and we can then proceed with the recommendation on the ground. So, so there are a lot of steps to be taken, and we haven't heard anything yet to the extent of, okay, let's have a second booster. Not yet.
Thank you for that information. And then a follow-up. So to summarize, no discussions at the federal state levels yet on a second booster. And if the time comes, and I want to emphasize if, since it's not actively apparently under discussion at this point, and if individuals are wondering if it is something that's appropriate for them, I assume we would advise them to contact their individual healthcare provider, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Please continue.
Yeah. So Casey, do you mind moving through the slide deck? I just want to show the numbers just to show you kind of like the reality we're in right now.
Yeah, Flo, where do you want me to go?
Well, let's go here. So this is kind of the epi curve for the state of Oregon. So you can see the steep increase in cases. I mean, those are cases for this past weekend, almost 20,000 new cases, which is interesting. Next slide. So as you can see, this is our hospitalization slide for the state overall. You're starting to see the increase in hospitalization, and as discussed earlier, this will likely go up until the end of January. Next slide.
So if I may, before we move off that slide,
Mhm.
and this, I don't know if you are able to answer this question or not, Florence, but by looking at that graph, since the surge in September, we never got back down to the hospitalization levels prior to the September curve, and now we're already increasing hospitalizations.
Mhm.
What do you think will happen when this surge, the current surge, starts to subside? Will we ever get back down, or when will we get back down to the level of hospitalization that was being experienced prior to the September surge?
I don't know. And, to throw one more parameter in this conversation is that it's hospital capacity also depends on workforce availability. And so, people are burnt out. Some people are leaving their profession. So, I mean, I don't know, to tell you the truth, but
fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
It, I think, will be very interesting to watch and see what happens after the current surge starts to subside, and see where that level of hospitalization tends to stabilize, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this is just the usual graph, regarding our local hospital. So this is for North Lincoln. So the red horizontal line is pretty much our capacity for ICU beds. And as you can see, we've been kind of like at capacity or very close to capacity. Our COVID positive inpatient is the vertical orange bar. And we have been oscillating between 1 to 3 patients hospitalized at once. At this particular time, I believe we have 2 COVID positive patients in the hospital today in North Lincoln. Next slide. And so PCH data, their ICU capacity is, has been reached for the past few days, but the number of COVID cases are, staying around 1 to 2 cases at a time in Newport. Next slide. Okay, look at this one. This one is total number of cases as of last night, 525. We are the 12th of January. We thought August was a lot. I think we're gonna definitely pass those numbers. Our test positivity rate is through the roof. Our incidence, the new cases per 100,000 is really high. I mean, it is really clear that we're having a lot of community transmission. One thing that I want to say also is that those numbers are only the reports we're getting. Okay, so meaning like you go to the hospital, get tested, you go to your doctor, you go to a lab, we're gonna get those reports. You do a at-home test and you don't input the information in the form that we have on our website, we're not getting that report. So it is very likely that this number is a low estimate of what's going on currently. Okay, so this is why it's important to get boosted if you're eligible, get vaccinated if you're not yet vaccinated, wear your mask, be aware of your physical health and the symptoms you might have, and stay home if you're sick. Okay.
Florence, before you move off that slide, and many may remember this, but when we first started into the pandemic, I believe 200 cases per 100,000 was considered an extreme situation, and a positivity rate of 5% was considered extreme. So now we're at virtually 3 times the number of cases per 100,000, and frankly, 4 times the positivity rate in this current surge. So again, some perspective, I think, on the current. I think it's a crisis, frankly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and thank you for the perspective. I think, there is probably some fatigue from everybody, and we tend to be in the present and forget a little bit what has happened. But you're absolutely right. I mean, at 200 cases per 100,000 last year, even we would have pretty much, very much reduced all sorts of public activities and indoor activities. So yeah, that's a very good point. Next slide. Okay, so just see on the steep increase. So this is the weekly cases we're getting. So we're almost, this past week and last week, we're almost at the number of cases we got at the peak week in August. So we're anticipating way more cases than this moving forward. Next slide. So, Lincoln County is still doing a really, really good job in terms of vaccination. I just want to remind people that your 2 first doses are not enough anymore and you need to go get boosted. We only have about 43% of our eligible population fully boosted. And so we need folks to really make the time to go get this booster dose as soon as possible. And next slide, Casey, I think we have the calendar for the clinics. Yeah, there you go. So one, there is the FEMA bus is at the Lincoln County Fairgrounds. They've been there since last Thursday and they will be there until the 20th. They're open 12 to 7 p.m. every day. So please don't hesitate to go there. It's walk-in, very easy. They have all vaccines and they can take care of you whenever you show up. So, and then we're, as you know, we started implementing this month a very clear calendar of events for certain areas. So tomorrow we will be at the Toledo Library. We will be in Lincoln City on the 17th, in Otis on the 19th, Lincoln City again on the 22nd, Walport on the 23rd, and then Ocean Spray Family Center on the 25th. All of this information is on our website, and Susan keeps it up to date really well. So don't hesitate to go there. You can also call us at the call center. If you have any question, it is 541-265-0621. And our team of wonderful people will help you out as much as you need to be helped. Okay, so don't hesitate to call. We're here for you, and we're really trying our best to make the vaccines available to you close to where you live. So yeah, that's it.
So
Next
Florence,
slide.
again,
Yes.
sorry to keep interrupting, but
No, you're fine.
I think it's great to see the efforts to get out to what I'll call the more rural parts of our county. Certainly the Panther Creek Community Club, which is way north in Lincoln City, Walport, Yachats, and Toledo. Thinking about East County or the more rural East County, are there still what I guess I'll call excursions out of the Toledo Library to reach the Siletz area, the Nashville area, those parts of the county, or what's the situation there?
So I think we have a clinic in the works for Nashville. I don't know if, let me check. I'm checking the calendar right now. I don't know if we have a firm date. I'm not seeing it on the calendar, but it doesn't mean that it's not being worked on.
Okay.
And we're also reaching out to the school district again to be able to provide clinics prior to spring break. And then we would want to do another round prior to summer break. I'm also seeing that we've reached out to apartment complexes and that we have a few different clinics going on at the end of this month in those areas. But I will be sure to reach out to the team and see what the plans are for East County.
Okay, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next slide, Casey. I think it's just the, hey, go get vaccinated and wear your mask and wash your hands and, you know, all that jazz.
I think you need 2 bullet points for get vaccinated and booster.
That's what I've got for you.
Thank you very much, Florence. I mean, this is a classic case, it seems like, of the news could be much better, but it also could be much worse. And I really think the the good work of the Lincoln County Public Health Team, Samaritan Health, our other partners, and the good sense of the people of Lincoln County in following these guidelines has helped put us in a much better place than we might be otherwise. So.
Absolutely. And Commissioner Hall, just the
Yes.
last thing I forgot to mention is for the testing at Samaritan, they now need people to make an appointment.
Okay.
Just because they need to preserve resources. And so this is what's going to be helpful for them.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Commissioner Hunt, do you have anything under commissioner reports?
Well, I do, but I'll defer to you first, if I may.
Well, I don't have anything, so I will say the floor is yours, sir.
All right. All right. Well, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve for the past 10 years come this June in the seat held by Commissioner Don Lindley, our longest serving commissioner. Sadly, Commissioner Lindley passed away last year. It's important to realize that a commissioner represents the county on numerous committees with widely varied objectives, and I've endeavored to represent all areas of the county, now much harder with COVID. My primary areas of interest and concentration have been transportation, job creation and retention, economic development, finance and budget, personnel, and technology. As a county commissioner, there have been some highs and some lows. A couple of many highs are the completion of the Highway 20 improvement, a project Commissioner Lindley fathered, and I have said grandfathered. I was appointed by Governor Brown to the Maritime Task Force, where I served as chair, and I still serve on the State Workforce and Talent Development Board, where I also was appointed by Governor Brown. As a county commissioner, I've tried to be open-minded and to listen to all sides of an issue, work to develop compromises, and to be collaborative with a long-range vision for the county. I've convened several work groups to address critical issues facing the county, expanded county services, and built partnerships, all in an effort to efficiently and effectively improve the county and the services to our people. I will serve out the remainder of my term addressing critical initiatives. I will continue to work to appoint a county administrator, to complete several county building projects, and most importantly, to address the structural budget deficit the county currently faces. Finally, let me conclude with the announcement that I will not be running for re-election.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. Well, so I guess this puts me in the position of being the first of many people who will say that your hard work and your contributions are certainly going to be missed. It's been really and we know you're not going out the door yet. You've still got several months left of public service, but it has been an honor and a pleasure to call you a colleague for this past decade. Of course, the small world being what it is, we both came to Lincoln County in the late 1980s, and our paths have crossed many times, even before you joined our budget committee and then became a commissioner. Your service on the school board and other civic engagements, my work in another life as a news reporter, but you want to talk about really small worlds. I don't know how long it was after we had first met, I realized that your father, the late Lee Hunt, was one of the two political science professors I studied with at Pacific University in Forest Grove. So I'm sure, well, we already see many people stepping up with an interest in serving the county, and want to wish everybody well who wants to step forward and attempt to fill what will be very big shoes.
Thank you for those comments. And it is a small world.
Indeed. So now we'll call on Casey Miller, our public information officer. We're at the slot in the meeting set aside for public comment. Do we have anybody who has signed up to present public comment today via Zoom?
Well, I do see we have one individual, Steve Sparks. Steve, maybe you could use the raise hand function if you do intend to talk to us today. I am removing your mute or asking you to unmute. So if you're there, we should be able to hear you. So one or the other, raise hand or just go ahead and get started.
Okay, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, we've got 3 minutes generally for public comment, so
Okay.
the floor is yours. I'm going to start the old hourglass moving now.
Okay. Well, this is an exciting time for children and families in life after trauma. It is a website that's been around for 12 years now. And and we just became an LLC after quite an effort involving a lot of people. And I'm asked often, and excuse me for that phone back there, I'm often asked what children and families in life after trauma is. And I have to tell this brief story about that. And I would appreciate a little patience because it's very triggering. I don't like to talk about this very often. And I just want to do it once. You ready? And let me pause for a moment. So I was born in July 1946. After the war, my father served in World War II for 5 years. He served in the Pacific, and he also served aboard battleship USS West Virginia on December 7th, 1941. And it was a little after 8 a.m. And he was on the third deck of the windlass anchor room. And that was when the first bombs hit Pearl Harbor. His shipmate, Roy Powers, put his head out the porthole. And then the second bomb hit, and the concussion blew his head off. Roy fell back headless in that moment. So my father, Vernon H. Sparks Coxon, was only thinking about surviving. So he raced up and climbed up to the first deck. And while he looked back, there were still men in the brig. And the Marine with the keys was killed. So he didn't know what he was going to do at that moment. So Lieutenant Stark said, "Sailor, close that hatch." So my father got up, went up, climbed up to the first deck, and then there was more bombing and strafing up there, so he got underneath the turret. And after that, he climbed up to the bridge and saw Captain Mervyn Benyon mortally wounded. And the doc, and Captain Benyon asked the doc what his chances were in that moment. And the doc said, "Not much, Captain." So the captain said, "This is my last order. All hands abandon ship." So my dad and his shipmates jumped overboard and swam the port island in burning oil. When they got there, they looked up and they watched the USS Arizona blow sky high. In that moment, they raced across Ford Island to the BOQ, where they changed and used their uniforms for bandage on the wounded. And they took a shower, put their uniform back on, and went off to the harbor patrol. So there's a lot more to this. My dad served 5 years in combat, 60 months of hard combat. Do you get that? So he came home after the war sick. We're all sick from that. I'm sick, but I'm 75. And when we started Children and Families and Life After Trauma 12 years ago, I was serving on the board of Neighbors for Kids in Depot Bay. And my friend Byron Lewis was the inspiration for this. And he passed away in 2017, so he's the co-founder. My wife, Judy Sparks, is a co-founder, and I'm CEO. So 2 days before Byron passed away, suffering from cancer for 4 years, he called me on the phone, and he said, "Steve, come over. I want to go for one last walk with you. I want to take the dog and go for one last walk." So I went over there on Shiny Mist in Little Whale Cove, and he was standing up there on his porch like he always did. And I got up there and helped him down. And we walked over to the little bridge going from Shining Mist over the nesting glade in Little Whale Cove. And he couldn't go any further. And we stood there and cried. And he looked up at me and he said, "Steve, dream big, promise me you won't stop your work." So I'm here to keep a promise. And I've kept that promise, and I'm not going to stop. So there you go. I won't tell this story anymore. We go on from here. You can go look at my blog and you can see all about it, because I'm not going to tell anybody anymore what is Children and Families and Life After Trauma. Now you know. Thank you. I'm going to have to excuse myself because this is very, very emotional. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Casey, do we have anybody else signed up for Zoom testimony?
We do not see anyone, or I do not see any indicators, but please use that raise hand function. And Chair, maybe while we're waiting for that, you
could walk us through the other option for public comment, which is our smart sheet. And if you can pull that up on the website, and basically this is a portal by which people can submit written public testimony, which is then made available. Certainly all three commissioners receive and review it, and members of the public, this becomes part of our official public record, and members of the public can review it as well.
Indeed. And then we also put it on the meeting page for the day, and we can find that online. So it is there. Thank you.
All right. We do not have an executive session today, so I do not believe we have any other business to come before the board at this time. Okay, last call from Commissioner Hunt or staff. If there is no other business, I'll remind you that the board will be having our weekly office meeting Tuesday, January 18th, instead of Monday. January 17th, the third Monday, is observed by the county as a holiday, Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday observance. And then the next regular public meeting of the Board of Commissioners at 10 o'clock, 1 week from today, January 19th. And again, that meeting will be conducted virtually. Until then, thank you, and we'll see you.